Billionaires are not like you or me, but it's very important for them that you think they are. So important, in fact, that some of them are spending millions of dollars every year on public relations agencies to spread the message that they are just ordinary people who drive ordinary cars, eat at ordinary restaurants, and live in ordinary houses. But in the era of ostentation culture, why are these people striving so hard to appear normal?
Got a follow-up question.
Okay.
What's with the Honda?
This is a perfectly good car.
I could buy any house in the world, and I don't want any other house than the one I'm in. And that house is in a middle-class neighborhood. I'm happy in a pair of khakis and a sweater, so I don't need fancy clothes. I don't need fancy food.
Do you have an iPad?
I do not have an iPad.
iPhone?
No.
Now convicted Sam Bankman-Fried once had billions of dollars in client funds at his disposal to live a luxurious life in the Bahamas in the early days of FTX. Fried and his co-conspirators supposedly drove expensive sports cars, typical of the Crip Bros, according to evidence presented during the trial. Fried would later sell the cars and advise other FTX and Alamo executives to do the same because it didn't fit the company image they were trying to present to clients and investors.
Why don't you buy a Lamborghini, man?
It didn't have any particular need for one.
SBF's beat-up Toyota that paid influencers made such a fuss about was as authentic as the company's internal accounting department. The car, the scruffy haircut were more carefully managed than client funds. The group did this because they knew that the image of a genius kid who didn't care about luxuries or power would be appealing to people looking for an honest place to stash their funds. SBF and the rest of the gang were all frauds, but putting so much effort into creating a folkloric image is done by many prominent business leaders for three simple reasons that are mostly lies. If you know these strategies, you'll see through what's little more than personal marketing. The first reason they do this is because even if they're not conducting a fraud, acting like an ordinary guy still gets people to give them what they want. Discreet wealth is when rich people buy high-quality products but don't flaunt their wealth. They do this because they don't want the attention and problems that come along with people knowing they're rich. Instead of hiding their financial means, these people are just trying to show as loudly as possible that they don't care about their money or that their money hasn't changed them. It's not discreet wealth, and it's a great move for their personal brand and the companies they represent. Humble CEOs are the new trend. The world's biggest companies are led by men who wear hoodies and sweaters instead of custom-tailored suits, and other business leaders are trying to mimic this trend because investors like it. If business leaders publicly give up flashy luxuries, it also sends the message that they'll be thrifty in running their businesses, and the data really backs this up. Buffett does indeed have an old car, but it's usually driven in a fleet of Suburbans with a security team. Zuckerberg wears the same gray shirt every day, but they're custom-made by Brunello Sinelli. Musk rents a small house next to the SpaceX factory, but the Wall Street Journal pointed out that he spends most of his time in an 8,000-square-foot mansion. And all these men fly on private jets. They're entitled to these luxuries. It's their money, but there are still two more reasons why they work so hard to pretend they don't exist. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why billionaires spend millions trying to convince us that they don't spend anything. The second reason very rich people work so hard to look normal is because it's an effective sales tactic. If you make millions or even billions of dollars in your life, I have good news for you. Unless you made your money as the founder and CEO of a famous company or you're a celebrity, it's very easy for you to live a life where no one knows who you are, except your family, close friends, and the people who work for you. According to Forbes, there were 2,640 billionaires on Earth in 2023, down from 2,668 in 2022. The publication also admits that many billionaires are not included in this number because they couldn't collect data to accurately report their private fortunes. Even if you're really into personal wealth, you'd probably only know at most 50 of these people, and the rest just look like people in suits. The point is, all the other rich people you know are only known because they want to be. And why would they give up an easy life to enjoy their wealth in peace? It's because their own success is one of the best ways to sell things. Whether it's Musk promising that full self-driving is just around the corner, Trump putting his name on everything, or Kevin O'Leary pretending to be a businessman to promote FTX. People buy success. People also buy identification. So, smart billionaires who want to use their image to boost their own company will make sure people can see them living lives they can identify with and aspire to at the same time. The New York Post recently published an article about Warren Buffett's wife, who was allegedly heard complaining about how expensive $1 for coffee was at the Allen & Company Sun Valley annual conference, dubbed the summer camp for billionaires. This story was also picked up by publications like Business Insider, which ran it with the headline, "Warren Buffett just became even more accessible for a billionaire." If it wasn't obvious, let me spoil the fun for you. No one at this conference would have passed on this personal conversation to the press. You're reading about it because they want you to read about it. For Buffett, this is a better story than a bunch of billionaires gathering to talk privately about whatever. The only information that seems to leak from these events is how expensive the coffee is. Being identifiable is an equally important sales tactic for people who want to sell a get-rich-quick course. An important element of any scam like this is that people need to believe that someone became rich and that they can do it too. Scammers will often talk about their humble beginnings while in front of a rented Lamborghini. Billionaires and sellers of get-rich-quick courses presenting a different image of themselves to the world than who they really are behind closed doors probably won't surprise most of you. But there are two ways this can harm the personal finances of ordinary people. The first way is simply the financial harm that believing in the stereotype of the accessible millionaire or billionaire can cause to people who blindly follow them. Successful people telling regular folks to cut back on luxuries to improve their financial situation is fine. But if they're telling them to cut back on luxuries to pick up a side gig so they can spend their money on a course instead, that's obviously bad and tragically happens all the time. Before we continue, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Following, obviously, fraudsters who build an image so they can sell a bad investment or an expensive course will cause serious financial harm to people who fall for their schemes. But even billionaires paying their PR teams to get positive media coverage about how accessible they are causing harm to the personal finances of many people because they're reinforcing a common stereotype in personal finance that all people's financial problems are caused by them spending too much. The lies very rich people tell about their modest cars, basic homes, and average lifestyles make it easy to blame people for enjoying small luxuries. Because if Warren Buffett drives an old car, why do you need a new one? After a certain point, people can't improve their personal financial situation by being more frugal. They need to increase their income. And that's the third reason why billionaires spend so much money to look poor. It helps them keep their workers in line. Accounting firm Ernst & Young, in a report, estimated that the number of family offices in the world had doubled between 2001 and 2016. Family offices are investment firms dedicated exclusively to managing the wealth of a single family. Many of these family offices are so large now that they have as much influence as private equity firms, and with influence comes scrutiny. Private equity firms are among the most hated financial institutions because they have a long history of bankrupting beloved companies and laying off thousands of workers, all to try to get a slightly better profit. A family office does the same thing. Public outrage over job cuts would be blamed on the family, and that's where a good PR team comes in. It's easy for workers to demand better wages from a business owner who is photographed relaxing on a super yacht. It's easier for a business owner to resist workers' demands when their entire public profile is about how they try to save every penny in the name of their business. Corporations have become people just like people have become corporations, and every corporation needs a PR department now. Something that billionaires have been very good at.